All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Thanks for tuning back in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV, More Than Meets the Third Eye. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah, and this is your spiritual vitamins. So, as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. Shout out to all of my star dusters and my moderators in the chat. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about something you're familiar with because we talked about it before. Okay, words, the power of words. Okay, I did a whole video a few years ago, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, talking about how words have power. Right, and then I told you the different etymology of certain words. For example, the word pandemonium. The word pandemonium, pan, the prefix pan means all. And in that word, pandemonium, in the center is literally the word demon. Okay? Think about that. Pandemonium, and it has the word demon. Pan means all demons. Now, demons create chaos. Demons cannot reside in a peaceful environment. And what does the word pandemonium mean? Well, it means chaos. Okay, to create chaos, to sow discord. Okay, everything's that demons do. That's right, Jeff. Many demons are all demons because Pan also means many. Okay, so with that all being said, and don't forget there's a Greek god, Pan, okay, that likes young people. That's why the character, Disney character, was called Peter Pan. Okay, that's another little trick. Okay, Peter Pan, the boy who never grew up. Okay, and then think about Pan also being a god of PDFs. Okay, so with that all being, that's right, Jeff Pan sexual, exactly. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's get into this PowerPoint. Everyone, please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time Queen Goddess goes live. Now I'm going to share my screen so you all can see this PowerPoint presentation. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. Watch your words. Okay? Watch your words. Now, like I said, we've talked about this before, but today we're going to talk about a few more things about it. Because you see, I've told you all before, even in the other presentation I did, I was telling you how not only do words have power, and it's the energy that you put behind your words when you say them. Do you say something, when you say certain things, do you have intention? Do you mean to make something happen, or is it something that you're wishing? Okay, you know how they say, careful what you wish for. This is why. Because when you put words out there, it's electromagnetic frequencies, and words become reality because words stem from our thoughts. And whatsoever man thinketh, that so he is. Remember, that's in the Bible. So when you think certain things, those things will actually manifest. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, the first word we're going to start with, okay, is signature. We're going to start with the word signature. Now, signature, the root word of signature is sign. Okay, you sign your signature. All right, your signature. Okay, the nature of you, the very essence of who you are. Now, this word comes from sigil. A sigil is an inscribed or painted symbol considered to have magical powers. Okay, sigils are symbols used in witchcraft. Okay, so think about that. Sigils are supposed to have magical powers. They're symbols that are used in witchcraft. And the word signature comes from that. Now, look at this. Every major magical sigil. Look at these. These are sigils. Okay. The 72 demon sigils, seals and symbols of the lesser key of Solomon. If you remember when I told you all about the lesser key of Solomon, basically, that story about Diddy, I told you all, the insider said that Diddy had that book, The Lesser Key of Solomon, which basically has these 72 demons seals in it. Those seals are known as sigils. Okay, so please pay attention. A lot of this stuff goes back and pertains to magic and witchcraft because guess what? We're casting spells with words. Okay, when you go to school, when you're a kid, the first thing you learn is how to spell. They start teaching you your alphabet, okay, which is basically like ancient geometry. Okay, they start teaching you the alphabet, then they teach you to put letters from the alphabet together to form words, and that's when you're spelling, and then you start taking spelling tests to see how good you are at casting these spells. Okay, so please pay attention. The word born comes from borin, which is the past participle of the verb beran. It also comes from the word beran, which means to carry, to bring forth, to give birth or produce. Okay, so that makes sense, right? Because when you give birth, you actually produce another human being called a child. Days. Think about the days of the week or someone being in a daze. Okay, just think about that. Okay, days equals days, which is a state of confusion. You're in a daze all week, which keeps you weak. WEAK. Okay. And then we look forward to the weekend. Why do we look forward to the weekend? Because we're tired from work. We're in a weakened state. All right. Weekend and weakened. All right. So we can't wait for the weekend to come because we're in a weakened state. So just think about how all of these words correlate with one another. Okay, sometimes we don't think about these things. Hello means is equal to hell is low. Now think about that. The word hello is a variant of hallow, Hallo, or hollow, Hollo, ultimately stemming from old High German words like hala or hola. Okay, which you see that's like the Spanish word hola is how they pronounce it. The H is silent. Now used for hailing or calling out. The statement hello equals hell is low is an interesting wordplay observation. Hello and hell share the same beginning letters, and there's a slight phonetic similarity. The phrase is low suggests a downward or reduced level. What is downward or at a reduced level? Hell. When we talk about hell, we say it's down below the earth's surface. And then look at the word Halloween. Okay, now remember the word hello comes from hollow. Okay, there you have the word hollow at the beginning of Halloween, or Halloween, as they used to say back in the day. Okay, so please pay attention. Slaughter, daughter, and laughter. All of these words are almost spelled the same, okay? But why does slaughter not sound, or why does laughter not sound like slaughter and daughter? Think about that. You see, this is why they say English is a bastard language, because words can be spelled a particular way but not sound anything like the way they're spelled, or words can be spelled the same but have different meanings, or be spelled the same and have different pronunciations. Okay, English is one of the only languages where that occurs. Please pay attention. You can't spell slaughter without laughter. See the irony in that? Because there's nothing funny about slaughter. Okay, now, television. Now, of course, we know this one, tell lies to your vision. It also involves channeling. Now, think about it, because what's your favorite television channel? Okay, I want you all to just think about it and make the correlations to all of these things, how they add up. Telling lies to your vision, that's literally programming. When you tell lies to your vision, or when someone is telling you something that's not really what is, right? And it may not even be what you're looking at right in front of you, but somehow they convince you that this is the truth. You've been programmed. Okay, so think about MK Ultra, hypnosis, and different things. And when you're watching the television, you're absolutely being programmed, whether you're watching movies, television programs, and sometimes even on commercials, they program you, okay, by certain ads that they have pop up. And then, as I said, you're channeling, okay? So that's why they have channels and television programs. See, it's all slick how they do it. Grammar. Now let's talk about it. Grammar, Latin grammar, okay, comes from the old French grammaire, okay, grammar, learning, especially Latin and philology, okay. Also, magic, incantation, spells, mumbo jumbo. You've heard people say that before, okay, so please pay attention. Incantation, spells, and magic. The word grammar pertains to all of that, okay. Then they have grammatica, okay, grammaria, all right. And then let's not forget grammar school, where you go and learn how to cast spells so you can do magic. Okay. Now, they don't tell you that they're trying to turn you into a whole little witch, but that's what they're doing. Okay. Please pay attention. Now, here's another thing. The old French word grammaire was usually used to refer to books that were written in Latin. By the 18th century, the term had gained its now common usage in France and had begun to be used to refer purely to books of magic. Grammaire, grammar, magic. Okay. Okay. Just pay attention, because casting spells. Grimoire, magician's manual for invoking demons, okay, called grimoire. This word also comes from grammar or grammaire, okay. It's the altered form of grammaire, and it means incantation, all right. Grammar. Also compare grammary or grammar to glamour. Broadcast. This is basically when you're casting spells abroad. Exactly what I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm sitting up here talking to you, but I'm using specific words. And these words that I'm using can cast spells. So if I'm sitting up here on the internet and I'm talking to people that are all around the world, right? Because that's what you get to do on the internet and on social media. And so what am I doing? I'm casting spells abroad. Please pay attention. Do y'all see the nefariousness in this yet? Parents, okay? Parents, think about it. Parents, like a pair rents some children. Because in real life, in the United States at least, the government owns your kids. And why does the government own your kids? What am I talking about? Well, because when your children are born, you sign a birth certificate. Okay, you sign this birth certificate, a certificate of birth, and it's basically giving the government, giving the state that you reside in, ownership of your kids. That's why if somebody calls and makes a false allegation or a true allegation, about something nefarious going on with the kids, CPS can come and snatch them up from you, because they actually have control of them anyway. Because if they're born in a hospital and you sign for them to get a birth certificate, you've initially given up ownership of your kids to the state. Okay. Now, you may not know that, but go look it up. Okay. Government, root word is govern, means to steer, direct, or control. Doesn't the government, in fact, try to control us? They try to control not only us physically, but the way we think. Governmentality, a term coined by Michael Foucault. It refers to the way in which states and other institutions guide and shape the behavior of populations through various techniques and strategies. It's about how popular it's about how power operates, not just through direct coercion or legal mandates, but also through more subtle and indirect means, influencing how individuals think, behave, and live their lives. Okay. They literally have control over the minds of the masses. Okay. Isn't that something? Governments, they're governing your mentality, basically. All right, because they spew propaganda, they put out certain narratives, they push different agendas, and this is all so that they can govern us, so they can keep and maintain control. And in order for them to do that, they have to some degree be able to control how we think. Now, they can't control how all of us think, but they can absolutely control how many people think. I mean, this is exactly why Trump is in office, okay? Now, news broadcast. Okay, well, we already talked about casting spells abroad, right? And that's exactly what's happening when someone's delivering the news. But casting spells to the north, east, west, and the south. Okay, news, north, east, south, or north, east, west, and south. Okay, that's why it's called the news, because they're casting spells in all different directions. Okay, in all four directions. Bet you never thought about that. Now, vowels, A-E-I-O-U. Think about it. I owe you. Okay, they keep you in debt so that you continue to be enslaved. Y'all think slavery ended? We're all still enslaved. We have to go to work every day and we make money. Okay, you could say, well, we're getting paid for working. Yeah, you're getting paid, but you then have to take that money that you worked for and give it to other people to pay bills. And then sometimes when you're done, how much do you have left? Okay, please pay attention. They have you working all your life, darn near. How old are people when they usually retire? About 65, some even older. Okay, you have to work your whole life to pay bills and give your money to them. How's that not the same as slavery? Well, it absolutely is to me. And here's the thing. Another reason they have vowels is because the word vowel comes from the Latin word vox, which means voice. This is because vowels have to do with your voice and the speech sounds that you make as you pronounce them. Now, here's something you probably never thought about. Now pay attention. When you say A-E-I-O-U or Y, your voice is completely opened up because your tongue, teeth, and lips are not restricting your airflow. Now think about that. Say the vowels quietly to yourself and see how your lips don't touch. A-E-I-O-U, and they say sometimes Y. Okay? So with that all being said, this is the difference between vowels and consonants. It gives you an uninhibited airflow when you're saying, your vowels, okay? Now, if you make the B sound, okay, or D, your teeth or your tongue or your lips are going to have to touch, and therefore airflow is restricted, okay? This difference is what makes the former a vowel and the latter a consonant. Working. Old English for work, work or work, working or working or were king. Were you a king? Now our ancestors, some of them were absolutely kings, and now they became slaves, okay? They were kings and then they became slaves. Now let's talk about that for a second, because I want to show you all a video about this, and I'll show it after we finish up this presentation, okay? About 5 African royals who were taken in during the slave trade. Okay, they were kings, or they were going to be kings. One was a prince, and he would have been king, but instead he became someone who had to be working on a plantation for free. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, they say it's strange that sword and words have the same letters. Even more strange is that they have the same effect if not handled properly. You know how they say words can cut like a knife? Words can be sharp. Okay, words or the truth hurts. Think about it. And they say God's word is a sword. Why do they say that? Because God's word is the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. Okay, sometimes the truth can cut deep. Origin of curse words. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them, but we'll talk about the most uh, specific one, or the one that most people use, the word F, the F bomb, the F-U-C-K. Now, there is a common belief that today's F word derived from an acronym, either fornication under consent of the king or for unlawful carnal knowledge. Okay. Now, the expletive may come from the Middle Dutch "fokken," okay, Norwegian "fucka," or Swedish "facka," all of which means several things, including to copulate, all right, which basically means to have sex. Now, then they have German, which is "ficken," which means to F-U-C-K. Then they have Dutch "fokken," to breed or to beget, okay. And then they have "fuck," all right, which means to F-U-C-K. And then "facka," to mess around. Okay, isn't that what some people do? Isn't that what some people say when they go off and do this? They say, oh, we were just messing around, or I used to mess around with him or her. Okay, to rush. It also means to rush. Okay, Norwegian, "fuka," to copulate. Okay, and then Swedish, "facka," which means to strike or to copulate, and "fuck," which means a man's cucumber. Okay, so what do y'all think about all this? What do you all think about it at the end of the day? I have several questions. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, with that all being said, let's get into this video that I want you all to watch. Okay. Let's get into this video that I want you all to watch. I'm going to stop the share because we're all done with this PowerPoint. So now when I play this, I'm going to add some music because I don't have permission. And it's like a 9 or 10 minute video, but it's giving you a little history. And I thought this was interesting for you all to hear. Specifically, Misha said so many names for, I know, right? Okay. So with that all being said, I'm going to add a overlay because, like I said, I don't have permission to show this. Okay, here we go. Okay, almost ready, beloveds. Hold on.
Certainly stunted the development and growth of West and Central Africa. The Atlantic slave trade was a tragic event that most certainly stunted the development and growth of West and Central Africa due to the unequal exchange of goods for human life. We speak frequently about the horrors of slavery, but sometimes we miss just how chaotic it was for West and Central African kingdoms. At one moment, you can be the enslaver, and the next, become enslaved. Even the very elite could fall victim. And so today, we're not going to tell a story from rags to riches. Today's topic is going to tell the unfortunate story of 5 African royals who went from riches to rags. What up, African world? It's Home Team here, and I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And as always, if you want to support the Home Team, you can do so on patreon.com. I have some new rewards for you guys, so be sure to check that out. Also, go to afrographics.com, a website where you can find unique illustrative infographics summarizing African history. All links to Patreon, and school teachers, and no merchandise, unless it is wine and flour for mass. It is our wish that this kingdom not be a place for the trade or transport of slaves. Many of our subjects eagerly lust after Portuguese merchandise that your subjects have brought into our domains. To satisfy this inordinate appetite, they seize many of our black free subjects. They sell them, after having taken these prisoners secretly or at night. As soon as the captives are in the hands of white men, they are branded with a red-hot iron. The enslavement of African royalty not only happened in the Congo Empire, but all over West and Central Africa. So let's tell the stories of 5 African royals who were taken in the Atlantic slave trade. Our first African royal is Prince Abdurrahman Ibrahim Ibn Sori. Abdurrahman Sori was a Fulani prince from the Futo Jalon region of modern-day Guinea, West Africa. His father, Almami Ibrahim Sori, was a ruler of the Futo Jalon in 1776, where his son lived and studied. Abdurrahman was very intelligent and a well-learned African who spoke 4 different languages and could read and write in Arabic. After he finished his studies at Timbuktu, he joined his father's army, his father making him the head of a 2,000-man army whose mission was to protect the coast and strengthen their economic interests in the region. It was during one of Abdurrahman's military campaigns that he was captured and sold into slavery. He was sold to the British, who brought him to Mississippi, where he labored on the cotton plantation of Thomas Foster for about 40 years. Abdurrahman used his knowledge to write a letter to his relatives in Africa. A Dutch man named Andrew Marshall was kind enough to send the letter to the U.S. Senator at the time, Thomas Reed of Mississippi. Thomas Reed gave the letter to the U.S. consulate in Morocco because the U.S. government assumed Abdurrahman was a Moor. After the Sultan of Morocco read the letter, he asked President Adams and Secretary of State Henry Clay to release Abdurrahman. And a few years later, Prince Abdurrahman was released. Unfortunately, Prince Abdurrahman could not return immediately to Africa, as he had made a family in America and he fought to free his children. As he could not free all of his children, he instead decided to return to Africa, going to Liberia. Our next African royal is Princess Anta Madugune Ndaye. Anta was a princess of the Wolof people in modern-day Senegal. At the tender age of 13, she was captured and sent to Cuba, where she was unfortunately purchased by Zephaniah Kingsley, a slave trader and plantation owner of the Spanish colony of Florida. During this time, her region was in constant warfare, and slave raids were a great threat to everyone in the region. Her life is interesting because she went from princess to slave owner and eventually a central figure in a free black community. At the age of 18, she was officially freed apparently, but that did not stop her from having responsibilities on the plantation in East Florida. Over time, she managed a large plantation and became the personal owner of 12 slaves herself. Her new family defended their territory from invading Americans and was awarded a land grant by the Spanish government. She later died in Jacksonville, Florida at 77 years of age. Our next African royal is William Ansa Sesarako. William Ansa Sesarako was the son of Fante chief John Karanti, who was the leader of the Anambo government in southern Ghana. Ironically, his father was a chief official in supplying enslaved Africans to Europeans. Over time, European powers became interested in gaining access to the wealth of Anambo. William Ansa's father wanted his son to get educated in England and, more importantly, build relationships. The man entrusted to send William Ansa to England instead betrayed John Karanti and sent his son William to Barbados as a slave. Years later, a Fante trader happened to see Ansa in Barbados and quickly alerted John Karanti of his son's fate.
Hold on. I was trying to, I thought it was ended. Hold on. Hold on. There you go.
And the Royal African Company and the English Joint Stock Company operating the slave trade liberated Ansa and transported him to England. In England, Ansa was received as a prince and gained the respect of London's high society. Our next African royal is King Taki of Ghana. King Taki was a ruler or chief of the Fante people in central Ghana. He can be considered a sort of warrior king as he had frequent military encounters with his enemies, the Ashanti. He himself sold some of his rivals, the Ashanti and others, into slavery as war captives to the British. Like others on this list, ironically, he himself became enslaved once he lost the battle. King Taki was taken to Jamaica, where he conspired with Queen Nanny of Jamaica to take over the island in a war with the British. In 1760, Chief Taki and his men started a revolt at their local plantation, killing the owners and finding a lot of early success. Many slaves joined in King Taki's rebellion. However, King Taki was later hunted and killed, and the rebellion was eventually put down. And finally, our last African royal is Ganga Zumba. Ganga Zumba was the first leader of a massive runaway slave settlement in Brazil. Zumba was an enslaved African who escaped bondage on a sugar plantation and eventually rose to the position of highest authority, literally creating his own kingdom in Brazil. This tremendous achievement gave him the title Ganga Zuma, meaning Great Lord. Ganga was said to be African royalty as he was the son of a princess from the Congo Empire. During warfare with the Portuguese, reportedly the Battle of Mbuela, he was captured as a prisoner of war and sent off to Brazil. Ganga helped to form maroon communities of former enslaved Africans in Brazil, which later formed into a well-organized kingdom in which he became king. By the 1670s, Ganga Zumba had a palace, 3 wives, guards, ministers, and devoted subjects at his royal compound called Macaco. The compound consisted of 1,500 houses, which housed his family, guards, and officials, all of which were considered royalty. It's so fitting that a royal of the Congo Empire would continue his elevated lineage by literally creating an empire of his own under the worst conditions possible. That is indeed legendary. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help out in this continued production, you can do so on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself.
So, with that all said, that was very enlightening. I hope you all enjoyed it. Now, POP asked if he can, in fact, if he can share that. Yeah, of course you can absolutely share it, beloved. You can absolutely share it. This isn't a members only broadcast. Now, here's the thing. I was going to post a members only broadcast today, but I'm going to wait till Friday. Okay, so what I plan on doing is having at least four members only broadcasts a month, one on every Friday. Okay, so I think that's what I'm going to do. Have a members only broadcast on this channel every Friday. Okay. So with that all being said, hope you all got something out of that. And POP, speaking of you, beloved, I need you to check the Royal Court, okay, the private chat that we have. Check that because I put you a message in there, okay? All right, so with that all being said, I will be live on the main channel later, okay? I'm also going to do an upload because I just got some information on Mary J. and the Misha Hilton lawsuit. Okay, so I'm going to do an upload as soon as I get off of here. So it should be posted by about 1:15. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.